Hello, everyone. My name is Vishal, and I'm one of the tutors at Interview. Um, so, let's get started looking into Python, one of the most popular programming languages, and especially in today's world of AI, um, Python is the way to go. So, I thought we can start with a small introduction about myself. I have over 5 years of experience as a data scientist, machine learning engineer, and I've been coding on Python ever since I started my career. And I use it not almost, every single day. Not almost every day, but I use it every day without fail. So I love Python. I've had experience working with other programming languages in the past, like Java and C, but um, Python is so much easier, and it's a great beginner friendly programming language. So first of all, why Python? That's one of the things I would love to discuss. Why Python? Well, first of all, it's very lightweight. Um, when I say lightweight, I mean lightweight code. You don't need to write like 100 lines or 200 lines of code um, just for a very simple task, right? A couple of lines of code and you can do amazing things. So I think um, that's one of the best things about Python, especially when you compare it to other programming languages like Java. And you also have the fact that it's beginner friendly. So it took me almost no time to get started with Python. In less than a day, I was able to write some simple code. And I did have some programming experience before, but um, I've spoken to a lot of my friends who started with Python without having any prior programming experience, and they tell me the same thing, that it was very easy for them to get started and start coding as soon as possible. So yeah, it's beginner friendly, and it is beginner friendly mostly because it is easier to understand. Simple rules, uh, no complicated regulations or rules or syntax. Very simple syntax, right? It's extremely simple syntax. You'll sort of understand that, especially if you already have worked with other programming languages. This is one thing that you will definitely appreciate about Python. Right, so this is about why Python, and the use cases of Python in today's world. Like, what are the different career options? What is it used for? Um, so one, of course, in today's AI world, to build ML models or AI models, there are tons of different libraries available. In fact, Python is the easiest language, especially if you're into machine learning or AI. You can train models in seconds just by writing 1 or 2 lines of code. It's that easy, and I don't think there's any other programming language out that allows you to do such things with such ease, right? And lately, slowly but steadily, Python is being adopted into web development as well. Of course, not as much as your um, MERN stack or those kinds of things, but slowly and steadily, Python is being used as a web development platform simply because it's easier to understand, easier to build, um, easier to code. So when it's easier to code, why not use it for other tasks as well instead of just using it for AI or ML, right? Um, so yeah, I think these are the main use cases. Of course, the primary use case being ML AI, second use case, especially over the past couple of years, especially web development. And but every language has its downsides as well, and there are a few downsides to Python as well. And uh, due to its internal working and the way it's built, it's slower than languages like Java or C, C++. It's a lot slower, especially for heavy tasks. It can get very slow. And also that it consumes a lot of memory. Even though the code is lightweight, when I said the code is lightweight, I meant it's a couple of lines of code can actually make you do amazing things, but still it consumes a lot of memory. So that's one of the downsides, which is one of the reasons why a lot of companies still have their codes on Java or something like that, because there's a ton of code out there, tons of applications, and if storage shouldn't be a problem, memory shouldn't be a problem, right? So it has its own downsides as well. But yeah, for ML AI, it's the way to go. There's no two questions about that. So I think as a beginner, these are good enough, like why Python, use cases, downsides. This much information is enough for us to get started. Here you can see that this is the Python website, and as soon as you enter the website, you have to download the latest version for Windows. You just got to download it. And I already have it downloaded on my system, so I'm not gonna download it and show you, but you gotta just click on download. It's gonna ask you a bunch of questions. You can just say next, 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 and make sure there'll be one option that says add Python to your environment variables. Just make sure that box is ticked. It should be ticked by default. Just make sure that box is ticked. And yeah, once it's downloaded, you're actually ready to go. So it's as simple as that. Once you have Python installed, the next step is you need to have a platform, right? You need to have a platform on which you can code with Python, and for that, there is something called Visual Studio, right? So again, you can just Google for download or install Visual Studio, and you will get the options. If you're using a Mac, you can download it for Mac. If you're using Windows, you can download it for Windows. So Visual Studio is like a platform on which you can code multiple programming languages, and Python is definitely one of them. So super useful, intelligent, very popular, open source editor, right? So once you actually install Visual Studio, it's going to look like this, right? So you're going to have your Visual Studio look like this, and you can either open a file, or you can just start with a new file. There are different ways in which you can get started. We'll actually see this as we move further. And one more important application that you have to download would be the Anaconda Navigator. So you can just Google for Anaconda, and you can actually just go to anaconda.org. So yeah, right here you can first say download Anaconda, right? So you have free download here, you can click on that. I already have it installed on my machine. So what is Anaconda? It's like a distribution of multiple softwares. So all you got to do is, let me just show you what you can do. You can, once you have Anaconda installed, you can simply say Anaconda Navigator. You can click on that. Then you're gonna have your Anaconda Navigator slowly open up. Okay, so there you are. So as you can see, there are a bunch of tools. It's like a data science or machine learning stack. Right? There are so many tools, and what we are most interested in is something called the Jupyter Notebook. So you can just launch the Jupyter Notebook, and so what is Jupyter Notebook? It's like a, as you can see, it says the web-based interactive computing environment. So you can easily run your Python code in something we call as notebooks. So this will work even if you don't have Python installed on your system. It's as simple as that. Allows you to write nice documentation, add text of any size that you want as well if you want to explain your code. So super useful application, Jupyter Notebook. So yeah, that's about what all you probably would need to install, right? And if you wanna, so you can work with me. As I type code, you can either do it on Visual Studio, you can do it on Jupyter Notebook, or if you have any other platform in mind, you can do it on that as well. At least in the initial phase. So that shouldn't be an issue. But I'm going to showcase most of the coding parts on Jupyter Notebook, at least to start with, because that's the easiest way and most beginner-friendly way, is what I feel. So yeah, I think we can start it then. So let's actually talk about the basics of Python, or what are the first few things that you should know. So the first thing in Python is you have something called as data types, right? So let's talk about data types first. And when it comes to data types, you have two types of data types. You have primitive data types and you have collection data types. So these are the two main kinds of data types, and we're going to start with primitive data types. So what is a primitive data type? A primitive data type is something like you have an integer type, right? So you have an integer type. So let's say, for example, I can say a is equal to 5, and 5 is an integer. Or I can say b is equal to minus 10. Minus 10 is an integer. So the data type refers to what kind of data a particular variable is storing. So if you want me to just zoom a bit, you can look at this. You have your a is my variable. A variable can store any kind of value and any kind of data type on Python. In this case, a is storing a, which is the variable, is storing 5, which is my integer. And b, another variable, is storing minus 10, another integer. So that's about the integer type. And then if I want to actually, view the values, I can say print A. I can say print B. So this will sort of allow me to view the values, right? So you have a variable and you're assigning some value that belongs to a certain data type into that variable. Next, you have something called float, right? So float is, of course, you can add fractions, decimals, 5.42. You can say A is equal to 5.42, B is equal to 3.1478, whatever. This is gonna be a float type, right? So yeah, you can print it and you can see it's a float type. So you have decimals involved there, or fractional numbers. So you will say that that's sort of a float type of data. And one thing you need to keep in mind is float always consumes more space than int. So super important, especially when you get into machine learning and you want to train very heavy and large models. So this is not going to be the same as this. Both of these are going to be different. One is a float, one is of integer type. So if you're really bothered about memory consumption, always use an integer type. So instead of doing 5.00, you can just do 5. That's always recommended. Then you have something called a string, so which allows you to store words, letters. So I can say, hello, how are you? Right? So that's a sentence. And the thing about a string is you can either actually have it within single quotes, would still work. This one's hi. You can have it in double quotes, like how here, or you can even have it in triple quotes if you're sort of typing a very large sentence like, I want to go home today. It's getting boring. Something like that. Right? So all of these are valid ways in which you can define strings. So when do you use single quote, double quote, triple quote? So when you have a multi-line string where you want to type something in one line and it's really big, so you have to go to the next line, you would use triple quotes. Otherwise, it doesn't make a difference whether you use a single quote or a double quote. But sometimes, let's say you want to have an apostrophe. So there, I'll say Vishal's home is in Bangalore, something like that. So here I have an apostrophe. It's just easier to make out when you have double quotes instead of sort of, here it's gonna it might cause a problem if I say something like Vishal's. See, like that's causing a problem because of the apostrophe. So in those kinds of scenarios, you will use double quotes. So most of the times the go-to will be double quotes, right? You're going to use double quotes to define strings. So that's about your string type, right? And there are a couple of others, like there's one more called a Boolean type, where the whole point is sort of storing true and false. I can say A is equal to true. And if I say print A, I'll get true. So you can see this is not a string, it's not an integer, it's not a float, it's called a Boolean type of data. And yeah, that allows you to store true or false, right? So that's about Boolean. That's a pure purpose of Boolean. Again, it might look like a very simple data type, but it's widely used. As we move forward, we're going to see where the Boolean type is going to come to use for us. And then finally, the last primitive data type that I want to talk about, there are a few more, but not that important for the time being. So the last primitive data type that I want to talk about is the none type. So a none type refers to nothing. So I can say A is equal to none. It holds a none type, a null. So I can say, it doesn't belong to any kind of any other kind of data type. So it's a none type. It doesn't really store any value as such. It just stores a null. No, it sounds counterintuitive, but again, super useful, used widely, especially when it comes to machine learning, which we will learn a lot about, right? So these are the, I would say, 5 different data types that are very commonly used on Python. And how would you actually find out what data type a variable holds? So what type of data does a variable hold? Right, so you can say, for example, you can say A is equal to 4. That's an integer type. And you can use something like a type. So we usually call this a function. We'll learn more about it later. So you can say type 4. Type A. And that'll give you what data type variable A holds within it. Similarly, if I say A is something else, if I say A is hello, and I run A and I can say type of A, it'll again tell me what kind of data type it belongs to. It says string. So the type function sort of tells you that. And there's one more important concept when it comes to data types called typecasting. So you can convert one data type into another. So for example, I can convert an integer type here. I can say B is equal to float A. So I'm converting 5 into 5.5. Sorry, I mean 5.0. So right here, you can see now 5 has become 5.0 because I typecasted it into float. Similarly, I can typecast B back to int. Let's say B is equal to int of itself. And now B is going to be 5, not 5.0 anymore. It's going to be just 5. Similarly, if let's say B holds a string like 54, I can always say print integer B. So I can convert B into an integer type. And now you can see it's not a string anymore, it's an integer. So again, the widely used, super useful concept, typecasting. Right? So yeah, this is about I would say the introduction, some of the basic things you should know. We're going to come back in the next session and we're going to look at a few other things, a few other basics of Python before we actually get into the core of it. All right. Once again, thank you guys. I'll see you soon.